This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Roshan Senanayake.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inspiring Design with yours truly. I'm your host, Roshan Senanayake, and this is where the best of the best brands, experts, change makers, and thought leaders come together to share their valuable insights, experience, and knowledge. Our goal here is to be the missing link between education, design, and the industry. So today's a bit of a unique one. We've got a very special guest coming as a victor of Shark Tank, Ryan Tuckwood. We're going to be talking about how to sell ethically as well as designing your communication. So Ryan is actually the one half of the Shark Tank victors at ISR Training. It's now widely regarded as the #1 ethical sales coach of the planet. Ryan openly admits he was once reluctant as a failing sales professional, struggling initially and even sleeping on a bathroom floor at one stage with just 30 cents to his name. He has now coached over 6,000 businesses and individuals globally, showing his clients how to close over $1 billion deals in new sales revenue for the last years alone. So who has he coached? Brands like Mercedes-Benz, National Storage, Westpac, AMX, Australian skincare clinics, the list goes on. Ryan and ISR co-founder Jack Colbert boosted their profile in 2018 after appearing on Channel 10's Shark Tank. We all know Shark Tank, where they became the first company in Australian history to successfully secure the support of 3 of the Australian entrepreneurial powerhouses, Dr. Glenn Richards, Steve Baxter, and Andrew Banks, who are now shareholders and advisors for Ryan at ISR. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Ryan, welcome to Inspiring Design, mate.
Thank you, Roshan. Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the long intro. That's always the most awkward part, just kind of listening to all of that, but no, I appreciate it.
Well, look, and that's the justice, right? You've achieved that, so I think it's fair call to, actually walk through it. Yeah. So tell us about your story. So beyond, I really want to hear about what was your life like before all of Shark Tank and ISR happened.
So I guess to put it all into context, I might take you back a little bit further to the UK originally, because a lot of people that might meet me now would think that, yeah, I'm in the world of sales and communication, and that's I speak all around the world as well on stages in front of thousands of people, but my life has changed tenfold in the last 10 years since I moved from the UK. So back in the UK, I actually come from an engineering background for 8 years. I don't come from an ambitious family. I definitely didn't have any sort of motivation to be a sales professional. I actually had all the preconceived ideas of what salespeople were like.
Yep. Which we need to get into, by the way, later on.
We'll get it, yeah. I don't help myself because I wear fancy pocket squares and flashy shoes. But when I got to the age of 27, and maybe some people might be able to relate to this as well in time, and I started to realise that maybe I wasn't fulfilling my potential, and I was good at my job, and I think that masks over the fact that you're in your comfort zone sometimes. And I was meticulous as an engineer. I got the job done. By the time I left, I was in charge of up to 20 guys on a shift. But I used to go home each night going, is this me? And I had no idea what else there was out there because I'd never known anything different, right?
Yeah.
But I got to the age of 27 and I knew that the Australian government gave you up until the age of 30 to move over here as a backpacker. So I had a natural induced urgency on me to do something in life.
Yeah.
I had a lovely girlfriend of 5 years that I lived with. We owned property together. I had a house. I had a Siberian Husky, and I decided to give it all up and jump on a plane and move to Australia.
Wow.
And 2010, I arrived here, and even though I was relatively well educated in what I'd done and relatively successful comparative to a lot of people, the only jobs that I could find when I moved here were in sales, and predominantly in call centres.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be some listeners listening to this right now that are in call centres and they've just perked their ears up straight away. Those guys right now will know how hard that is.
Yeah.
To take that further into consideration, I'm an introvert by nature. I'm not somebody that loves the stage. I actually had a debilitating fear of public speaking. I definitely didn't like rejection. I didn't like abuse. I'm not a confrontational person. So put me into a call center and tell me my job is now to make $300 a day and find out if somebody's got 15 to 25 grand in 90 seconds.
Oof.
That's a way to put me into my shell.
Yeah.
And it did. And it was, I always say I didn't get depression, but I got a level of anxiety around going in there every day and picking up the phone.
I think it's natural to have that.
I think so. And I think there's a certain leadership style around the carrot or the stick, right? And I was getting the stick of just pick up the phone and dial, just work harder. And I felt that I was working really hard anyway. Hopefully nobody would ever question my work ethic, but it wasn't working for me. I just wasn't very good. There were 21 people in there in the call center, and I was 21st.
Wow.
For 3 months straight.
Yeah.
And that's where, as you spoke about earlier, that's where I got to my crisis point, I now call it, of 31 cents in my bank and sleeping on a bathroom floor. And at that stage, as we all do in life, we have our crisis points, but they're also crossroads and they're opportunities. And we either dig our heels in and we continue and we try and fix or master whatever challenges we're facing, or we quit. I quit. I said, this isn't for me. I can't sell. Selling is for extroverts. Selling is for the people that the gift of the gab, the ones that can sell ice to Eskimos and all of that. And I went into my boss the next day, who happened to be my now co-founder of ISR, Jack, and I said to him, mate, I can't do this. Like I'm out. Sales isn't for me. And he said to me in no uncertain terms, Ryan, you've not even tried. And at that point, I'm like, well, I don't know what you mean. I'm working hard here. I'm doing everything in my power. I come in early, I leave late. I'm trying my best. He said, you haven't fanatically consumed everything you can around the art of sales, negotiation, body language, emotional intelligence, behavioral science, the psychology of human behavior, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what those words mean. Sales isn't a skill. In my head, sales and communication was not a skill. It was just something you either had or you didn't. And then he challenged me. He said, I want you for the next 60 days to fanatically consume as much information as you can, 15 to 20 minutes every day. And if at the end of those 60 days you're still 21st, I'll pay for your flight anywhere in the world. And you go home and you leave with your head held high knowing you gave this a really good go. Fast forward really quickly. Within 5 weeks, I went from 21st to 1st, and my whole life just changed. Because for the first time, my engineering brain had kicked in and aligned itself to sales and communication, because it said that there was a formula and a process to how we communicate with human beings to maximize every opportunity. And within 15 months, I was sales manager. I had 47 staff under my guidance, and I did just over $300,000 in commissions. And I realized that, money aside, I was now for the first time ever able to impact more people. And for me, that's what sales is. Sales is impact. Sales is the ability to inspire people to do things that maybe they didn't believe they could do. And that might be buying or investing or purchasing something that they didn't know that they needed at that point. But your job is to dig deep enough and articulate a value in a way that they see value. And all of a sudden, I'm like, this is my purpose. And that's when in 2014, Jack and I broke away and we created this company, I guess to go a long way around answer your question, because of a frustration in the industry. Some people will be listening to this right now going, sales trainer, English sales trainer, Gold Coast, and their sales defenses will be very, very high, and I get that. We want to change that stigma. Our whole mission is to change the perception of salespeople, and for people to understand that the art of sales and negotiation and communication is a noble trait, and you actually owe it yourself to be able to better communicate your value to help you reach your potential.
And I think that's a valuable way of looking at things, because if you are actually making sales, if you're running a business, then that's great. You're going to have to do sales, otherwise there's no possible way you can grow. And if you're not one of those entrepreneurs that are going to start your own business, then you have to join another organization and a system. So again, if you're then selling, whether it's a design, for me actually sales is actually any form of communication where you're projecting an idea. So I'm telling my students all the time that you're selling when you get up in front and you're talking about your design. You're not asking for money in exchange now, but what's going to happen when you go into the industry, right? You're pitching a building design and you're asking for a paycheck. In the end, that's what you're doing,
100%.
right? So that's been my definition from sales. So I wanted to ask you, what is sales in your definition?
the short. If I was going to give you one word, I'd say everything.
Okay.
The reason I believe that, and you are assigned it there to selling an idea. I think you're selling yourself first before you sell the idea. So we live by the philosophy of we call it MCP, that you sell yourself, myself, which is the M, the company, and then your product, and you sell in that order. So for me, sales opens doors to everything. Like, so whether you want to book a restaurant on a Saturday night at 6 o'clock and you want to get the best restaurant in town, do you have the ability to pick up the phone and endear yourself to the person that answers the phone enough in 60 seconds that they want to find a way to fit you into that restaurant? There's a challenge for the listeners right now.
Yes.
I did that in New York on New Year's Eve in 2014. I got as a restaurant in Times Square because I understood human behavior. So it's opportunity, it opens doors for you. Selling is not just here's a product, do you want to buy it? I'm selling people right now on the idea that sales could potentially, maybe, hopefully one day be a noble trait. And if they walk away from listening or watching this and they go, okay, there is some merit in that, job done. And that's selling them. I'll give you a really clear example of when you're representing a business. I'll say the business name, let's do it. So Baby Bunting, I've got an 18-month-old baby boy. I've got a new baby on the way in October as well, another boy. So even though we're still a few months away from the second boy, my wife decides that we need to buy the second car seat already. So I'm in Baby Bunting, got great service on the front end, and we buy this car seat. They say you got to go out the back to the roller doors, somebody will be out there to greet you, they'll help you put it in the car. Drove around the back, happy, love the service in there. The roller doors open up, there's a guy there in a high-vis. He just works in the factory part. Maybe that's his perception of his job. I just work in the factory and I just help people lift boxes into their car. No, you're in sales. Because he opened those roller doors up and he went, receipt. I was like, good afternoon, how are you? And he was like, yeah, good. You got the receipt? I was like, yeah, here's the receipt. So already, my interpretation of the internal training at Baby Bunting has gone down. My experience is diminishing by the second. And he went, thank you, and then walked off. 10 minutes later, he came back. He said, where do you want it? No. So you must have a baby on the way. Congratulations, what you're having. That is selling. And you touched on it, every single human interaction that you ever have, whether you're listening visibly, whether you're speaking to somebody face to face, whether you're on the phone, you're selling yourself first and foremost. So I just think it's one of the most powerful skills that anybody could ever attain.
Absolutely, and I think that's which leads me to my next question is, how important is this within every industry? Doesn't matter where you are, in your point of view, how does it fit in, and why is it important every single thing we do?
Yeah, I was probably a little bit naive when I got into the industry. I thought, because I came from a call center environment, I assumed that this would only work in direct sales, transactional sales, where you're asking somebody for the money for something. But since then, I mean, we've coached in over 150 different industries, from earwax cleaning to Amex, Mercedes-Benz. Where, the industry doesn't actually matter, because it is. And Andrew Banks, one of our investors, hit the nail on the head when he came on board. He said, Ryan, this isn't sales training, this is communication coaching. And every single human being in every single business can benefit from communicating their value better. So why I think it's really important is twofold. I think there's lots of brilliant minds out there that are in school now, leaving school, looking at secondary, tertiary education, looking to get jobs, and they would offer tremendous value to organizations, but in the interviewing environment, they maybe froze up, they didn't say the right answer at the right time, and they didn't truly articulate their value. And businesses miss out, and individuals miss out. And there's then a misalignment of roles that people then fall into. So I feel there's a lot of people there that are very talented that might be falling through the cracks because they didn't have an ability to handle their nerves in that environment, or speak in a language that the interviewer sees value. And then businesses in general, I mean, you would know these figures as well. 65% of businesses in Australia go under in 3 years, 95% in 5. They're horrible figures, and it really doesn't need to happen, because some of them are great businesses.
And that's the usual fear that gets people going. The high chance of fail rate is through the roof. So why would I start? There's too much risk, and it actually holds a lot of ideas from ever even being tested.
That's actually a really good point. You actually you play safe, right? You go, well, I won't do that just in case it jeopardizes everything else. Whereas if you knew right now that you could create a new idea, a new division, a new product or service in your business, and you also knew that you'd be able to categorically communicate the value of what that does to the market. So it would sell before it even hits the market. You try more things.
Absolutely.
Which would mean the country would become more innovative, the economy would grow,
Yes.
and everything would grow. So want people to be braver, and bravery starts with confidence. Confidence starts with competence. Competence starts with familiarity. Familiarity starts with repetition.
Yeah.
So we've got to get the repetition of doing the right things first before we can breed the confidence to try new things.
I'm actually seeing patterns in how design thinking and communication sales comes into it, because it's part of storytelling, is part of design thinking. At the end of the day, that is still communication. And regardless of the industry, like these logos in the background here, the process and the approach, the steps, the elements that are involved, it's all the same, because it's actually human psychology. So I'm loving what you're putting down. But why is there a negative connotation when it comes to sales? Because people immediately think, sleazy salesman.
Yeah.
Or car sales, real estate, whatever. Like, there's always a negative thing towards it.
Yeah.
I know my partner at the time, when I went through some sales training, this is back in 2014, when I came back and was just parroting what I had learned that day, super excited. And one of the things she said to me at that time was, this is actually things that psychologists get taught. But this guy is out there teaching it to anyone and everyone without any code of ethics, without a governing body, right? Whereas psychologists actually have a very strict governing body. So it's very easy and dangerous. It's almost like giving superpowers to villains. And I'm like, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
But she wasn't wrong. There was there was some truth behind it. And I started to think about it, going, why is that? And it's that negative connotation that sales has with just in general.
Yeah.
Why is that, and how do you guys overcome that?
Firstly, I think it's warranted. I think there are a lot of people out there, it's undeniable, there's a lot of people that are using these skills for the wrong reasons. There was a movie made about it.
True.
And that proves, firstly, that sales can be taught. And that's the first part. So I don't mind, I get a lot of my competition on my podcast and do live videos with them as well, because anybody that promotes the need to understand communication as a skill, that's a benefit to me. What we always say in our training is how you use these skills is really up to you. What we want to make sure that we do, and we always say on our phone calls or on our interactions, we're looking for two things before we decide who we're going to partner with. Number one is a moral and ethical alignment. Our whole sales methodology is called SWISH, stands for selling with integrity and selling honestly. So making sure that you don't go into an interaction with the intention to sell. I always say your job is not to sell, your job is to find out whether a sale should be made. So first and foremost, make sure there's a moral and ethical alignment there. And then the second thing is to have a growth mindset. We want them to have an open mind to a new relationship, more consultative approach to selling. Because maybe what you just alluded to there as well around the psychology, about 3 or 4 years ago, I stopped studying selling, so to speak, and I started studying buying. And when you do that and you put yourself in the buyer's shoes, you realize the market's very sophisticated. You know what we're doing, leading questions, 3 yeses, feel, felt, found, bait and switch. Everybody knows what you're doing.
True.
Be a real human being, have a real conversation with somebody, and as long as you're articulating value in a way that they see value, they will come to the conclusion themselves that you're the best fit for them. So I always say, let the penny drop for them, don't throw the penny at them. There's a huge difference between the two, which is old school. So I think the stigma is there because it's warranted and it's merited, and there's lots of people that have been ripped off. Is our mission hard? Yeah. Like, if we call you up and we're a sales training company, your defenses go even higher. So we have to prove credibility 10 times more than any other business, which is why the Shark Tank journey and that part of the story was very powerful for us, because it meant that 3 of Australia's most successful business owners did 6 months due diligence into our business, talked to our clients, saw that it got results, and then came on board. But still, there'll still be skepticism always, I think.
Absolutely, and it's quite sad that there is that skepticism, because if you go through that process that you've gone through, and even my similar journey, for me, sales is actually education. The first couple of years in business, I was hell-bent on that transactional mentality. I need to get that paycheck from them. I don't even care what I'm giving them type mentality, because that's kind of a do or die desperate situation. For me, it became so much easier and more fun and enjoyable and less effort when all of a sudden sales to me was educating your clients. it actually doesn't matter if they buy from you or not, because I've found so many times that they will come back and buy 3 years later.
Yeah.
Just because you've given them some value. It's just not the right time. Otherwise, they would have already said yes.
Yeah, and you do that very well, like across the socials as well. That's a conscious effort, right?
It is. Yeah. It is, and that's not on purpose of actually expecting a return. No. You know, it's not expected. And when you go back, you find that some of the schools that we work with or universities we go, they were in the audience 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, or they were in the audience 2.5 years ago, just hearing one seminar or whatever, and you just accidentally see these faces pop up, and you go, that's why.
Yeah.
You know, you're being giving to them so they see you. So for me, that's, and given I'm in education, for me that's 100% that mentality. So I've found that some people have understood that, but at the same time, no. And a lot of people who are not running their own ship, it's harder for them to understand that. And that's where I find the biggest battle between that perception.
It's hard as well. I mean, if you're in the early stage of business and you're just starting out, naturally we're looking for cash flow. We need to drive revenue into the business because we all say without sales, business fails.
Yes.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
But also with sales, with bad customers, your business fails.
Yes.
So there is a balancing act. So it took me about 2 years to realize that as well. Not just the making sales, but also being consistent in putting out content and giving value, and then switching off the expectation of return. This is why people don't do social media selling very well. I don't think it's social media selling. It's just social media exposure. It's awareness.
Yes.
So what is it? 0 moment of truth is what Google is, right? Is it 11 touch points these days, or is it not?
I thought it was 16.
I've probably gone higher. 16 touch points before somebody decides that they trust you enough to do business with you. So how can you get those touch points in the shortest amount of time is the game.
Yeah.
So that there is a level of trust and credibility.
Absolutely.
There.
And it's really funny. I was actually just last night watching one of the King of Contents, Gary Vee, one of his lives, and he was just trying to drill into this lady who had just completely missed the point. And he's like, why do you think all my content is free? He got a little bit frustrated because he's like, I need to cut this short. He's like, why do you think all my S is free? And she's like, I don't know, because you can afford to. It's like, absolutely not. He's like, my business model is putting out every one of my content, all my knowledge out there for free. And then I charge a premium, $10,000 an hour for the 0.01% of the clients that want access to me. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's like, that literally is my business model.
Yeah.
You can go and copy it if you want, because I'm giving it away for free. And it works, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a massive spike since we actually created a creative division. We've got a marketing manager that oversees everything. We've got videographers. Since we've done that, there's been a direct correlation with us putting out more free content with the business growth. So you give out, we're exactly the same. We put out everything, and then you charge for the implementation. Because I could watch a martial arts video, but I'm not a black belt.
Yes.
just seeing a video does not make me an expert. So,
correct.
And again, it might come back to the training versus exposure. So I can expose you to something that you might not have ever heard of before. And we've got acronyms coming out of our ears. We've got over 200 hours worth of content.
Yep.
Just because you hear it doesn't mean you can use it.
Yep.
And then there will be a small portion that we know in time, when we've got to those 16 touch points or fewer, that they'll actually engage your services.
Right.
And when they do, because they've already seen the value beforehand, they're not coming in kicking and screaming. You don't get refund requests or buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
They're really good, solid clients, and it builds for a really enjoyable sales environment and business environment.
Yeah, love that. I might just pause. Can we change the camera angle from that angle? I was just half thinking, maybe we can get a completely third angle. Just my phone.
Your phone?
Yeah. Put it on
so
the
you
chair
want
or
it
something.
from you?
Like that angle? Yeah.
So you want it
From behind me?
Behind, because then we've got like behind me and then behind Ryan as well.
Oh. Do you want it from the floor, or do you want me to chuck it on tripod?
Maybe a little bit higher, like eye level.
It's very hot in here.
Yeah, it does get hot, eh?
It's that.
Imagine when I do boot camps in here, sometimes we had, do you know body science? Have we even got them up there? You know body science, these guys?
Yeah.
They had 19 people turn up. In here,
In here?
We say 12 maximum. They
Jesus.
have 19 turn up, and they flew in from all over. So they just basically took advantage, but they obviously weren't aware of the size of the office.
Yeah.
So we say 12 maximum because then we can do a role play. We can keep it really tailored.
Yeah.
And it was roast, and this is like an 8-hour session.
Oof.
It
That would
was-
have been tough. Yeah.
So is that how you want it?
Yeah, that looks good, man. Yeah. Just so then it captures both facial expression.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That's all right so far. What you?
Yeah. Oh, this is perfect. Yeah. Is it recording?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That one, I mean.
That one.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's sweet. Yeah.
We had a scare early, didn't we?
Oh, I've done
After
that
I
before.
filmed one, and he just pressed it, and it was like 3 seconds. And I'm like, we
Yeah, it was like
recorded that,
45
right?
minute recording.
Yeah, it's happened to me before, and with phones, if you get an email or a notification, it stops the video record.
Yeah.
So I had put it on airplane mode, so it should.
Have you
still
done a
have-
whole podcast before and not recorded it?
Well, no,
Not
because
yet.
the audio, I only focused on video in season 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just been microphone to a Mac, easy setup.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened so far. It's touch wood. Yeah. But if today happens, I'm coming after you.
Yeah,
Definitely coming after me.
Jackson's
No,
got
we're
it.
all good. I'm watching it now.
Alright, sweet. So we're pick up on how does authenticity and morality come into play.
Okay.
Yeah, so, love that, mate. So, how do you actually nurture these skills when it comes to authenticity, and how do we communicate authentically?
I think for me, I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey. I mean, well, not Stephen Covey Senior, Stephen Covey Junior, who wrote The Speed of Trust. I don't know if you've read that book.
Yep.
And in there was one thing that really hit home to me was how you communicate trust and authenticity was 4 stages, which was the first stage is integrity. So how do you communicate integrity?
Mm-hmm.
That then branches off into a whole session in itself, but it's about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a stigma if you're in sales or a misconception that I need to be authoritative, I need to be expressive, and I need to be in control 100% of the time. Nobody's in control 100% of the time.
Nope.
And nobody expects anybody, any other normal human, to be in control. So when you are, it actually raises sales defenses.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of sharing stories to the right people. I mean, we can go deep into personality profiling, and some people want to hear the story, some people don't.
Yeah.
But as a general rule of thumb, I will always go through my story. We open with it today. That was not by accident. I know that people need to buy into me first before they're even listening to me. Zig Ziglar told us, people listen to you, they like you, but if they trust you, they do business with you.
Yeah.
And we've got it on a canvas in our reception.
Yeah.
So big fan of that. So first thing is integrity. The second thing is intent. Being super, super open and honest at the start of what is my intent today. If somebody says to you, are you hoping to make a sale? I'm not hoping to make a sale. I'm looking to find whether a sale should be made. And if at that stage I do believe we can assist you, then yes, I will be recommending a product or service.
Yeah.
If not, I'll be letting you go.
Absolutely zero defenses. Then you're open to hearing what the other person's going to say.
Yeah, just totally. That's what we're doing. If you're in sales or you're in business, do you want someone to buy your product or service?
Of course.
Yes. So are you putting content out there that is designed to increase the value in your product? So when people do reach out to you, they want to buy it. Of course we are. So the market knows that as well. Why are we trying to be shady and hide all of that as well?
Yeah.
So even in our podcast interviews, do I reference other products or services? Absolutely, because I'd be crazy not to, because you can't sell a secret. And this is one of the biggest problems with businesses going under is they go, I just don't get it. The product is amazing. We have such great results for our few clients.
Yeah.
Did you tell anybody else about it? Did you ever speak anywhere? Did you share much content out there? No. Well, and nobody came knocking for something they didn't know existed.
Yeah.
So being very clear about your intent. The third thing in the speed of trust is your capabilities. So you need to be able to communicate that you have the skills to assist them with your product or service. And the final one is results. So you need to communicate third-party stories, testimonials, elegantly. Again, we've already done this through this podcast. We've spoke about different businesses.
Yes.
It wasn't a pitch; it was organic through dialogue. So, what I can't remember where I found it actually, but it was a quote that said, "Dialogue is the highest form of persuasion." Dialogue is the highest form.
And
form
speech
of
is to
persuasion.
compel and to persuade. And I think Ralph Waldo Emerson, mentioned that quote. So
Okay.
it's very similar.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that we don't want to. I don't want to convince you of anything. I don't want to persuade you of anything. I don't want to manipulate you into anything. I want to inspire you, and that for me is what selling is. You're inspiring somebody to take an action that is in their best interest.
Yeah.
Do you get a benefit from that if you help somebody in their life? that's a natural sort of consequence, but not every single time as well. Sometimes it's just good to give, and I'm not overly religious, I'm not overly spiritual, but I've definitely recognised, as I referenced earlier, the more we give and the more people we help, then the more lucky we seem to get with business.
And that's a beautiful way of looking at life in general, because what goes around does always come around.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many times when, there's movies made about it, when you are undercutting someone else, it's a finite, it's not sustainable. There is an end point to it. So love that mentality, mate. So how do someone like you and I, or a student coming up, how do they develop these skills? Like, because at the end of the day, a trainer can fast track that process for sure. But if they are not in a place where they can find a coach, or where they can afford a coach, how can they develop these skills themselves?
I think the first step is to recognise that it is a skill. They need to accept it. And the phrase that's probably not politically correct that I use is, like a good alcoholic, it's accepting that you need help in the first place, right? If you can accept that there are skills out there, you will find it. Because I promise right now, they'll be around you. There'll be videos online. You go on our YouTube channel, you'll find hundreds of free content to help you learn how to communicate your message better. Harry Singer, who I know you know as well, my public speaking coach, he said to me, the biggest mistake that people make when they're trying to progress in life is that they look for the skills when they're ready. So they wait for an opportunity. You might have a job interview coming up. You might have a meeting with somebody that could take your career in a totally different direction. And you go, I should know how to do this before I go and see them. And then you rush all this knowledge and you try and cram it into your brain before this meeting, and then it gets all confusing and you can potentially let yourself down. So he said to me, the biggest mistake people make is learning when they're ready. He said, don't learn when you're ready, learn to be ready so you never miss an opportunity again.
You're always prepared.
Always prepared. The Scouts. Do you have Scouts over here? I'm not sure. Scouts a Scout is a kids club back in the UK that you go to, and
they do have it here.
Do they? Yeah. Or be prepared. There you go. And what happened to me after that, after I started engaging her for training, all of these speaking gigs and all these opportunities that I said, well, they're not around me anyway. I don't ever get a chance to do anything like this. I did 188 speaking gigs the following year.
Love it.
So they were always there. I just repelled them because I wasn't ready. And the same happens with your career. You repel opportunities and you turn them down subconsciously because you're not prepared.
And I've found through my own experience, there's the other side of that coin happens as well. I kind of went headfirst into this and tried to get as many speaking gigs as possible when no one knew my name, and literally no one knew the brand, no one knew the business. It was just at the start, and I was, I think, a little bit blinded by that. You hustle as hard as you possibly can, and pretty much got every single rejection. I've had some people that have come back and go, in a nice way, turn you down, going, not right now because we need someone higher profile. 2 years later, however, then they invite you to come and do your own keynote or conference, which is actually a really good game changer. But after a little while, I understood that was happening because you were putting out free content. You were literally out there creating value for other people, and those are the people that were in the audience 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
And you never know who's watching.
Exactly.
Ever.
Exactly. And it's so hard to control. We're all so connected now. It's I love that. So you need to be prepared. That's one of the takeaways, which pretty much takes me to that next question: is how important is this for 21st century education? Like, in Australia, as at a global level, how important is this skill within the education sector, do you think?
I think it's more important than ever before, for the main reason we've got more reach than ever before.
Yes.
Firstly, I just want to quickly, before I forget it, just at the back end of your last sentence about putting out free content, the sentence that summarises that for me is commercialise first, monetize second. So you commercialise yourself first, you put your brand out there, you gain credibility, and then they will come to you, as opposed to you forcing it upon somebody as well. The same works with your product, your service. If you can, it's not always feasible, if you can give it to people as much as possible initially, or at least give your knowledge around it, that's going to endear people and drive traffic to you.
And I think just on that, if people usually give with the hope of getting back, or here's my 1.5 hours of free, so I'll
see through it.
You can see through it, and then buy my 8 hours course. People smell the desperation, and it's not as successful.
Commission breath, we call that.
There you go. There you go. That's the terminology. So you got to give without expecting it, because it does come around. But it's actually a huge mental shift. So these are the kinds of things that I've been looking at as important skill sets that need to be instilled in the future generations right now.
That for me right now, I've got two BHAGs. You know a BHAG?
No?
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Right.
So I've got two big, hairy, audacious goals. Get that one out. So I've got two big, hairy, audacious goals. Number one is to provide education to every single business in the world.
Love it.
And the reason I believe that's so important is because of what we spoke about earlier is so many businesses are failing all around the world. I think when you register a business, you are not allowed to register it until you've engaged some communication training or some sales training. Because if you can't sell it, your business is going to fail. And I think it's irresponsible of governments to let people start a business if they know that they've already got a 65% chance of failing.
Yeah.
So that's one of our big goals. And then the second one, which I'm really passionate about because I know it would have changed my life if I'd have learned these skills earlier, is to get sales and communication training part of modern day curriculum at primary level, if possible. How many kids are getting? You would know the figures better than I do. How many kids are getting bullied? How many kids are sitting at the back of the class not putting their hands up when they've got ideas because they fear that they're going to look silly for shouting out something that could be totally creative, and we're suppressing all these geniuses that are actually going to change our world for future generations. So I guess to come back to what we spoke about as well, that's why it's so important. It has to start there because the world is more connected than ever before. We're not always going to have the fortune of sitting face to face with people. I think business is going to change, especially after COVID. It already has for us. We're now 95% digital trainers. We were before COVID. We were about 60-65, which is great for us because we can train people anywhere around the world, and it's more accepted.
Yeah.
So you need to have the skill to be able to jump on a Zoom or jump on the phone and not just communicate and sell physically through your body language, but utilize tonality and read people over the phone when you can't see them. That's a skill.
Yeah.
So I think we should be teaching that a lot at younger age.
Love it, mate. Love it. So what's your advice, finishing up, what's your advice for students and graduates right now, because they're in an education system that unfortunately doesn't incorporate this in the curriculum. So these are things that are in discussion with a lot of people at the moment. So there is a shift.
Yeah.
However, the students right now, similar to when we went through school, it's not a skill we got taught.
Yeah.
So if you are a student and graduate right now, what would you advise them? What are their action steps right now?
For me, it's if you've got an idea, firstly share it with somebody. I think there's a lot of ideas again that don't get launched because we go, somebody's going to steal my idea. So I want to quash that one quickly. You come and tell me you've got an idea. I'm not going to steal it. I've got 3 businesses. I've got a baby and I've got another one on the way. I don't have time to steal your idea, but I might know the person that you need to talk to.
True.
So the old adage is your network is your net worth. So live your life like the person that you talk to every single day, the new contact, the person you sit next to on the bus, the person you sit next to on the train. Introduce yourself. Say hello. You have no idea who is in their network. So live your life like that person could change it, and then you maximize every single human interaction. Second part to that is that you need to maximize that situation by knowing how to introduce yourself.
Yes.
So we go through, I don't know if you've been to our event, you've seen me do elevator pitch, the 5 steps to mastering an elevator pitch. Not yet, okay. But we got 5 steps to communicating who you are, who you help, the problem you solve, why you do it, and the best thing about you or your business. So have a fundamental set of language patterns or word tracks that you communicate with every person you ever meet. So somebody says to you, we get asked 3 questions in life more than anything in the world. What's your name? Where are you from? And what do you do? The 3 most common questions you're ever going to get asked. You know the first 2. If you don't, we're struggling. You know the first 2. The third one, what do you do? You're not a digital marketer. You're not a plumber. I'm not a sales coach. What problem do you solve for people? Once you start communicating that in an interaction and then tying it with the reason why, so you actually add an emotion to it, you start to connect with people. And when you start to connect with other human beings, your network just expands and you'll start to find like-minded individuals like never before. In 2010, I wasn't around the wrong crowd, but I certainly wasn't around the right crowd for where I could go for my potential. So if you're not surrounded by people that are as ambitious as you, it's a big world. What is it, 7.7 billion people on this planet. There's 4.5 billion of them have the internet. Find groups, network. We've got Facebook groups where you can just network with people that are thinking like you, and all of a sudden that will open doors.
And I think it's Will Smith, one of his videos relatively recently, he said, go to your text messages and look at the top 5. If they're not people that are lighting your fire, find people who would.
That's a great way of putting it. I used to think, and it's probably apt for me to share this as well, I used to think that the likes of Tony Robbins, or motivational speakers, I just think it was really fluffy. Goal setting, fluffy. Vision boards, that won't work. Because I hadn't been around it.
There is a truth to it. There is 100% a truth to it, and I've actually understood there's a bit of a science behind it as well, because you're literally just immersing yourself in a topic and constantly seeing something in the mirror or a vision board or on your wall, and on top of that you're literally just getting clarity. So all of those things are still the same foundational human principles, human psychology. And I never thought that, but I know there's a big connotation, similar to sales having that negative connotation. They go, oh, goal setting.
I'm like, that won't work for me. And then I met a guy called Dennis McKenzie in 2010, and he asked me, what are my goals? And I said 3 or 4 things. He said, how long they've been your goals? I said, 3 or 4 years. He said, show me. I was like, what do you mean show me? They're up here.
Ooh.
And he said, that's why they've been your goals for 3 or 4 years. They're stuck in your head. You need to get them out, get them on a piece of paper, get them on a vision board, see them, read them every single day, and most importantly, get people to hold you accountable to achieving them. And it's not even arguable. I've had the most productive 10 years of my life by a long, long way. Just because I walk in every single day, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know the network that I need to be around. I know the people that I need to associate with and hang around with. And audit my network as well. So I like the Will Smith analogy there is, so once a month I actually make a conscious effort to audit my newsfeed, and I audit my network, and I go, am I around the right people to take me to the next level? Because you do outgrow mentors as well. I've mentored a lot of people that have actually outgrew me as well, and that's cool, and most good mentors will respect that. They can take you to the next level,
definitely,
but they stay in their lane. Auditing your network is actually a good one. Thanks, Will Smith.
No worries. Well, there you go.
We'll message him.
Look, mate, that's actually been brilliant. And do you have any last advice for the listeners before we end things for today?
If there's people right now that are thinking about starting a business one day, and I'm sure there's lots of, if they're listening to this, they're of the right mindset, right? They're ambitious, motivated individuals that potentially want to go out there and start a business at some stage. Do it with pride, do it with integrity, but also feel comfortable in asking people for the business if you know you can help them. The number one thing that you should be focusing on when you start your business is listening to your market and revenue generating tasks. And that was 2 things, wasn't it? The number 1/2 thing. If you don't deliver what the market wants, you're going to fail. If you don't ask for the business, you're going to fail. So feel comfortable in asking people for the business and spend a disproportionate amount of time doing so. The marketing collateral, the beautiful website, all of that will be dictated to by your audience anyway, but let them pay for it when you ask them for the business. And that's where I think a lot of people go wrong in the early days. They spend too much time on non-revenue generating tasks.
Love that, mate. Well, it's been a lot of learnings personally as well, and a lot of takeaways for the listeners from today, mate. So thank you so much for giving up your time.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it.
That's it for today, everyone. Now it's time to jump on to roshansenanarka.com/podcast and check out the show notes from today's episode. Click on the direct links in the show notes and follow this man's incredible work. Follow ISR. Get on LinkedIn, connect with Ryan. Get on Instagram, follow him as well, and learn about how you can sell ethically. Lastly, click subscribe and share your love and review if you're up for it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on today's topic. So till next time.